I was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse, the kind that makes the entire city look like it's holding its breath beneath you, when my phone buzzed on the marble counter behind me. The vibration echoed lightly through the quiet morning, slipping under the soft rustle of my silk blouse as I turned to look. Another message. Another reminder of a past I had worked so hard to bury. I didn't reach for the phone right away. Instead, I took a slow sip of my coffee, letting the warmth settle in my chest. My life now looked nothing like the girl I used to be, the one who stood in someone else's house, in someone else's shadow, hearing someone else decide her worth. But today the past wasn't interested in staying buried.
Buzz.
Another message. This time, curiosity tugged harder than hesitation. It was a voicemail transcript from my mother, short, shaky, and full of a fear she'd never shown me before. Something about the will being read. Something about the family needing me there. A tiny laugh slipped out, sharp, humorless. Needing me. Funny how they only remembered my existence when money was involved. And just like that, the memory hit, the moment my nephew, barely 12, looked me dead in the eye and said, "Trash belongs outside." I tightened my grip around my mug, silk pressing cool against my wrist. If they wanted me back, they were about to face the woman they never expected me to become. I was 22 when everything finally snapped. Back then, I still lived in my brother's house, technically my parents' home. But everyone knew Michael ran it like his own personal kingdom. I was finishing community college, working evenings at a diner, and trying to pretend the constant comments didn't bruise as deeply as they did. That day, the house smelled like lemon cleaner and fried onions, the usual mix my sister-in-law loved. I was carrying a box of my old books down the hallway when I heard my nephew, Ethan, snickering with his friends in the living room. I didn't think much of it until I stepped inside. My sweater, my shoes, even the small notebook I kept for sketching, all of it was dumped in a corner near the back door, like donated items waiting to be hauled away. "Ethan," I said slowly, "why are my things outside?" He didn't even look embarrassed. He just shrugged, pushed his glasses up his nose, and said the lines so casually it sliced right through me. "Trash belongs outside. Dad said so." For a second, I couldn't breathe. My fingers went numb around the edge of the box. My voice caught somewhere between disbelief and humiliation. His friends laughed, that awkward, teenage kind of laugh, but the damage was already done. When Michael appeared behind them, leaning against the doorway with that tired look of superiority, I knew the words hadn't come from a child's imagination. "You're old enough to get your own place," he said. "We've carried you long enough." Carried me, as if I had ever been allowed to stand. My mother watched from the dining room doorway, arms crossed, silent. She didn't defend me. She never did. I felt the familiar sting in my chest, that sinking, collapsing feeling of being the family's afterthought, the unwanted responsibility no one had asked for. I remember my hands shaking as I picked up my sketchbook from the floor. The corner was bent, smudged with dirt. Something about that little ruined detail broke me more than the words had. That night, I packed quietly. Only the essentials, 2 bags, a folder of documents, and one item my grandmother had given me before she passed, a small silver compass on a thin chain. "For when you finally find the courage to choose your own direction," she had whispered. I slipped it around my neck, feeling the cool metal settle against my collarbone. And with the echo of Ethan's voice still lodged like a splinter in my mind, I walked out of that house, not because they told me to, but because I finally decided to choose myself. Starting over wasn't poetic.
It wasn't romantic.
It was cramped, loud, and smelled vaguely like burnt toast, the scent that always drifted through the hallway of my first tiny studio apartment in downtown Phoenix. The walls were thin, the rent was barely within reach, and the air mattress I slept on had a slow leak I never successfully patched. But it was mine. My space. My beginning. For weeks, I moved on autopilot, morning shifts at the diner, afternoon classes, late nights sketching until my eyes blurred. I didn't know exactly what I was building toward, but I knew I was done letting other people decide the shape of my life. One evening, While wiping down tables, a woman named Charlotte Hale walked in, the kind of woman who carried her success in the confident swing of her shoulders. She was a regular, always dressed in linen blazers and soft gold jewelry, and she always asked for my section. That night, she noticed my sketchbook peeking out from under the counter. "Are those yours?" she asked, tapping the corner with a manicured finger. My first instinct was embarrassment. The drawings were raw, rough, the kind of art I created when my emotions were too loud to ignore. But I nodded. She flipped through them slowly, page by page, her expression unreadable. Then she looked at me with a spark of something that felt dangerously close to hope. "Have you ever considered design?" she asked. "Real design." That question cracked open a door in my mind I hadn't known was there. Charlotte ran a boutique agency, interior design and conceptual art installations, and she offered to bring me on as a junior assistant. "Your perspective is unique," she said. "You see emotion in spaces. That's rare." The first months were brutal. I worked double shifts, sometimes staying in the studio until 2 a.m., learning drafting software, studying color theory, and absorbing everything Charlotte threw at me. I spilled coffee on my first client presentation, mixed up fabric samples on a project, and once cried in the stairwell because a contractor snapped at me. But every time I doubted myself, my fingers brushed the small silver compass resting beneath my shirt, a cool reminder that I was moving, choosing, becoming. Slowly, the progress came. My first small win: a local cafe loved my wall mural concept and paid me $500 for the design. I cried on the bus ride home, not because of the money, but because someone finally believed in something I created. My second win: a celebrity stylist hired Charlotte's firm to redesign her loft, and she specifically asked for the girl with the emotional sketches to join the project. My third: Charlotte sat me down, laced her fingers together, and said, "I want you to lead a project of your own." Years passed. Clients grew. So did my bank account, my confidence, and the quiet strength that came from rebuilding myself piece by piece. But I kept it all hidden from my family. My social media showed only neutral updates: a plant on my windowsill, a blurry sunset, a coffee cup with no caption. I avoided posting anything real, anything that hinted at success. The emotional scars still whispered caution. Don't let them back in. Don't give them a chance to take credit or take advantage. Meanwhile, my world expanded into something beautiful: polished floors, a team that respected me, a portfolio with national features, and savings that grew into investments. And finally, ownership. My own firm, my own life. All built quietly, deliberately, far away from anyone who once called me trash. The day they showed up, my office was unusually quiet, the soft kind of quiet that comes after a major project wraps and everyone finally gets a breath. Sunlight spilled across the polished walnut floors, catching on the edges of framed design awards and the abstract painting Charlotte gifted me when I opened my firm. I was reviewing fabric palettes for a high-end hotel renovation when my receptionist buzzed through. Her voice was hesitant. "Ms. Carter, there are 3 people here asking for you." 3. My chest tightened. I already knew. "Send them in," I said, though my pulse tapped nervously against my collar. The door opened and in walked my mother, my brother Michael, and, of course, Ethan. My nephew looked taller, older, but the moment his eyes landed on me, I watched confusion ripple across his face. He had expected someone smaller, someone worn down, someone forgettable. Instead, he saw me. A woman in a tailored ivory blazer, hair pinned back in a sleek twist, confidence rolling off me like a second skin. "Wow," Ethan muttered under his breath, staring at the panoramic windows behind me. "This is yours?" I didn't answer. I let the silence stretch. Let them take in the leather chairs, the curated sculptures, the massive conference table I'd imported from Italy. My mother's gaze lingered on the framed newspaper clipping by the door. Riley Carter, the design visionary reshaping luxury spaces. "So," I said finally, voice calm, steady, controlled. "You're here about the will." My mother's lips tightened. "Your grandmother's attorney insisted the entire family be present when the final documents were reviewed." My grandmother, the one person who had seen me, The one who had put a compass in my hand when no one else believed I'd ever find direction. Michael cleared his throat. We thought it was only fair to talk before the distribution happens. Fair, I repeated softly. I walked around my desk, heels clicking lightly against the floor, and stopped in front of them. Fair is an interesting word coming from you. His jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. Not here. Not surrounded by the visible proof of everything I had built without them. I gestured to the seating area. Sit. They obeyed. All of them. A small victory pulsed through me. Quiet, bittersweet. I remained standing. Before we talk about the inheritance, I think we need clarity. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, and something about that made my heart twist, not from pity, but from recognition. He was seeing, maybe for the first time, the full weight of those words he'd thrown at me years ago. You want clarity? Michael asked, irritation threading through his voice. Yes, I replied simply. Because you all walked into this building expecting to find me struggling, desperate, or ready to hand over whatever Grandma left me. I leaned against the edge of my desk, folding my arms. But that's not the situation, is it? My mother swallowed hard. Riley, we didn't know you were doing so well. That's because you never asked. The words hit harder than I expected. My voice softened, but didn't waver. I built a company. I employ people. I've designed hotels, restaurants, galleries. My work has been featured nationally. And no one in this room even knew what field I worked in. Silence. Heavy. Shameful. I let it linger. Then I walked to the credenza behind my desk, pulled out a slim leather folder, and placed it on the table. This, I said, is the official notice from Grandma's attorney. Michael reached for it, but I placed my hand on top first. She left behind $5 million. Ethan's eyes widened. My mother gasped. Michael leaned back slowly, realizing what was coming before I said it. She left it to me. I finished. All of it. Their reactions were almost cinematic. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, eyes bright with disbelief. Michael's face flushed red, stunned into silence. And Ethan, the boy who once shoved my belongings out the door, whispered, $5 million? Yes. I straightened, lifting the folder. And, before you even ask, no, I didn't take it because I needed it. I glanced around my office, my world, my life. I took it because she trusted me to use it well. And then, quietly, deliberately. And because I earned the right to walk away from everything you ever made me feel. Michael was the first to recover his voice. This is unbelievable, he muttered, rubbing a hand over his face. Mom, did you know about this? My mother shook her head slowly, eyes still fixed on me like she was seeing a stranger, wearing her daughter's skin. Your grandmother never told anyone. She always said you'd understand her choices when the time came. I felt the compass under my blouse press lightly against my skin, as if agreeing. I drew a slow breath. Before we talk about anything else, I need to be absolutely clear. I'm not here to rewrite the past, and I'm not here to punish anyone. But I am done pretending nothing happened. Michael looked up sharply. Ethan's gaze dropped to the floor. I'm willing to help, I continued, but on my terms, not yours. My mother leaned forward. Riley, what does that mean? I walked to the window, letting the sunlight catch the soft gold trim of my blazer. I wasn't hiding anymore. Not from them. Not from myself. It means, I said quietly, that if you want anything from me, whether it's involvement, support, or even a relationship, then things have to change. I turned back to them. Let's start with you, Mom. Her spine stiffened. All my life, you stood on the sidelines while I was pushed aside. Ignored. Humiliated. I don't need an apology for every moment, but I do need honesty. If you want to be in my life, you have to start speaking up.
For me.
For yourself. For anyone you've avoided defending because it was easier to stay silent. Her eyes filled with tears, not performative, not forced, real. I can do that, she whispered. I should have done it years ago. I nodded once, then shifted my attention. Michael. His jaw tightened. I know you expect me to grovel. No, I replied. I expect you to grow. He blinked, thrown off. I'm not asking for your pride. I continued. I'm asking for accountability. You raised a child who believed cruelty was normal. You taught him that disrespect was justified if he learned it from you. Ethan's shoulders hunched. You want my help? Then you need to change how you lead your home. Therapy for your anger. Actual communication with your family. Stop acting like everything revolves around what you say. Because it doesn't. Not anymore. Michael's breath shook. He didn't argue. Maybe for the first time in his life. And now, I looked at Ethan. He was 19 now, lanky, awkward, unsure, but still carrying the shadow of that boy who once threw my belongings outside. I don't hate you, I said gently. You were a child repeating what you were taught. But that doesn't erase what you did. He swallowed hard. I know. If you want a relationship with me, if you want to benefit from anything I build, then you're going to have to unlearn every toxic thing you absorbed. Respect isn't optional. Compassion isn't weakness. And decency is the minimum, not a favor. He nodded slowly. I'll try. No, I corrected softly. You'll commit. The room fell quiet again, not tense like before, but thoughtful, heavy with the weight of possible change. Finally, I said, if you all accept these conditions, genuinely accept them, then I'll consider involving you in the investment projects I plan to build with Grandma's inheritance. Not handouts, not freebies, opportunities, ones you'll work for. My mother exhaled shakily. Michael stared at the floor. Ethan nodded, eyes glossy. And for the first time in years, the power was finally in my hands. In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. They didn't disappear. They didn't lash out. They didn't accuse me of being dramatic or selfish. They changed, slowly, awkwardly, imperfectly, but they changed. My mother began calling me every Sunday morning. Not to hover or pry, but just to talk. Really talk. She told me about the book club she finally joined, the cooking class she was nervous to start, the way she was learning to speak up when she felt dismissed. Every call felt like discovering a version of her I had always hoped existed. Michael surprised me most. He enrolled in anger management therapy without being pushed. He apologized, not in a grand, sweeping moment, but in small ways, stepping back instead of snapping, correcting himself when he sounded condescending, acknowledging the past instead of pretending it didn't happen. He even sent me an email, a whole paragraph, thanking me for giving him a chance to be better than the man he had been taught to be. I reread it twice, unsure whether to smile or cry. And Ethan, well, he showed up at my office one afternoon with a nervous grin and a portfolio of small graphic design projects he'd been experimenting with. He wanted advice, mentorship, maybe even an internship if I thought he deserved one. The fact that he asked, humbly, sincerely, meant more than anything. I didn't say yes immediately, but I didn't say no either. One evening, after a long meeting, I sat alone in my office as the city lights blinked awake outside the windows. My fingers drifted to the silver compass beneath my blouse, tracing the familiar edges. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory. For when you finally find the courage to choose your own direction. I had chosen it, painfully, slowly, stubbornly, and it had led me somewhere she always believed I could reach. But now, I wasn't walking that path alone. Healing wasn't a dramatic forgiveness montage. It was everyday choices. It was boundaries wrapped in softness, honesty laced with love, progress made in inches instead of miles. My family wasn't perfect. Neither was I. But we were trying, and for the first time, trying in the same direction. I stood, lifted the compass, and let it rest in my palm. The metal shimmered under the warm office light, steady and sure. I'm exactly where I need to be, I whispered, not to anyone else, but to myself. Then I slipped the compass back into place, straightened my blazer, and turned toward the door ready for whatever came next. Top of form, bottom of form,